Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm a couple minutes late. Apologize. First off, just a couple quick announcements. On April 16th, we've got Matt Venuti is coming here, a musician, does a kind of some really neat music with a visual and up on the screen. And then we're going to try to have during the daytime, and we're going to be talking about that today some, about having vendors in the parking lot like we used to do, and maybe do a day of it. That's going to be a Saturday on April 19th, but we'll have more info on that. And also next month, the 16th, we're having our annual meeting and a potluck downstairs, so please put it on your calendar to join us for that. And lastly, be sure to visit the current gallery exhibit outside here. Writings from Unity member Dory Boyd, honoring Black History Month with a series of Alabama civil rights images that she has photographed in the last 12 years. And you really, if you haven't checked it out, you really need to check it out. It's some great, great stuff. Yeah. Really good. And there's going to be a reception this Friday evening, February 28th, from 5 to 7. So here in the lobby, we'll have a reception for Dory. So please RSVP Dory if you're planning to attend, so we know how many people are going to show up. All right, guys, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Good morning, everybody. If you will, take a moment to be centered right where you are, affirming that where you are, God is, and all is well. In this sacred space, we give thanks for the manifestation of the presence of God and the presence of love that unites us together from all over the city, all over the state, all over the digital space. We give thanks for having a safe space where the presence of God can prepare our hearts for the weight of our calling and the responsibility of our lived experience. We speak in advance that this service is blessed and ordained by Spirit. We affirm that all who are present here and accounted for, and those that are tuning in online, have heard what Spirit says unto them and received that in which they need. And we affirm in advance that the service is in divine order. Collectively we say, and so it is. Amen.
time when we have a brief meditation in preparation for the Reverend's message. So if you just sit comfortably and become aware of your breath. And I want to say that in these times of great turbulence, what comes to me is a quote that says, "When power leads and wisdom follows, the face of wisdom is veiled and she stumbles. When wisdom leads and power follows, they both arrive safely at their destination." And I would say, friends, that this is a time when we need wisdom to arise, and it is. We just have to look for it. And it's not going to come through any one individual. It arises from our own true natures. And so what little we can do is to honor that innate wisdom that is in the depth of our beings and bring it forth. And the way to bring it forth, for me, and I think most mystics say, is with the breath. We tend to not pay attention to our breath as much as we could. The yogis have a term, prana, which is the energy within breath. We tend to think of our breath as just air coming in and going out, but that is actually the least of breath. What is really happening is the inhalation of prana and the exhalation of prana. So if you can just sit and pay attention to your breath, but see if you can feel beyond just the in and out of air. And this prana is being held by every cell of our beings, our physical cells, and even our other more subtle bodies, is absorbing prana with every breath. So as you breathe in, see if you can just feel all through your body and even beyond your body into your essence, that this prana is coming in and going out. You could think of it as a blessing in a way. And to the extent we can tune into this infusion of prana and allow our beings to give out prana. So feel into that as you breathe. Prana in, prana out. Prana has the power to quiet our minds when we focus. And we can choose direction for our prana. We can infuse it with our consciousness. And within prana, we have access to all wisdom. And we can consciously choose to send wisdom. I'd like to focus on our heart centers, the center of the chest, the heart chakra. And within the breath of our elements, we breathe in through the mouth and out through the air is the fire, breath of fire. So as we breathe in through the heart, through our mouths, exhale through the nose, infusing the heart with fire. So we're breathing in not just air, we're breathing in prana through our mouths. Exhaling prana deep into our hearts through our nose. This tremendous energy coming in and being directed into our hearts. Our hearts can begin to vibrate, to glow, not necessarily with visible light, but the light that sees. And the light that can infuse, not into necessarily physical darkness, but the darkness of other hearts. Allowing us to see beyond the superficial personality. And feel the power of prana, which is the power in all things, the power of love. So as we love, we help wisdom to arise within us, and wisdom that we can project, not with our minds, not with our thoughts. It's more subtle than that. It's a feeling that we all can summon and direct. And it helps us to not shut down when we become aware of prana in, prana out. Prana in, prana out. Radiating from our hearts with love. So mote it be.
Just stay right there for a few moments to rest in that energy. Just rest. They that dwell in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place of the Most High is within your heart. It's the place of refuge. Siddhartha the Buddha told his disciples to take refuge in three things: the Sangha, which is the community; the teachings, which is the Dhamma. Dhamma is the Pali translation of Dharma. And then take refuge in your inner Buddha nature. So in this space, we collectively practice taking refuge in ourselves, creating a set point so that when the world gets to be too heavy and we need to shut out stimuli just for a moment, knowing that staring and holding worryation and doubt and fear and anger and headlines and gloom and doom doesn't contribute to the good that's unfolding. brings things to our awareness that we must see. But there's a greater responsibility, a greater source. Our source is never the external. It's always the internal. Faith, hope, and love, strength, wisdom, will, what we collectively, metaphorically call the 12 powers, symbolized by all of the disciples and the apostles. All of them are within our very heart, within our very being. So rest with me just for a few moments, allowing that energy to fester, to clear up and clear out, uniting us together as a spiritual family, reigniting and activating our sense of purpose and direction, guiding us back to love. And when you're ready, take a deep breath, slowly open your eyes, release the sound of just letting the day go, letting the week go, letting yourself reset and rest and return to a sense of well-being. And so it is. And so it is. If you will rub your hands together, let's send this energy to those that are watching online. Say this with me. Divine love in us blesses and multiplies all that you hear and all that you see. Know in this moment you are safe and loved. And so it is. Our ministry is supported by partners like you. Remember to log on to unitybham.org and click on giving. Moderators are always on standby, as we say every week, before and after the service. So wherever you have a prayer request or if you wish to engage us, you are a part of our spiritual family. Click like and subscribe. Comment in that comment section wherever you see the video, and we will continue to pray for you and your family. Can we say amen to that? Amen. I want to acknowledge for a second the visitors that are in the room and our returning visitors. Put your hands together for our visitors. Some of you I've seen before, and some of you have probably been here since before I was born and finally coming back. We greet you again. Welcome again. Welcome back home. It's good to have a home, and I also want to say this, that if you need information about the ministry, please see the ushers in the back immediately after service, and they'll be sure to give you a pamphlet. But it is so good to have a spiritual home, a safe place where you can kind of return to practice what Dr. King called the beloved community. And it's sort of a reminder of our need to create these spiritual ecosystems in our life and around the world. Can you imagine what life would be like if you had no safe place to go? It's like permanently having your work clothes be attached to your body. It's like, I cannot be off work because, and some of us know what that's like. We got Outlook on our phone, Outlook on our computer. We retired and then work harder than we did when we actually had a full-time job. Retirement becomes the thing to do. And not to make light of safety, but it is a real thing, and it's important to ensure that we have safe places like this where we can gather, but also safe places in your home, safe places within your own mind, because sometimes our minds can be troubling places where there are individual thought people that exist, and we're trying to figure out how to evict them. Things that we hold in our mind that are there rent-free, and we got bills to pay, and we could probably use the money. We should start charging these thought people, and it's the truth. In fact, safety is actually the root word of salvation, soteriology. It's all about safety. Safety and wellness and wholeness. That's why we practice the ritual of coming together every week, because the whole purpose of spiritual community and spirituality is to place you in a position of wellness. It's metaphorically the Etz Hayim, the tree of life. We talk about the tree of life in spirituality and spiritual practice, but the tree of life is also the wellness tree. And spiritual practice is an arm of it. Your spiritual teachings through what we call positive theology, not hellfire, gloom, and destruction, and making you feel bad on Sunday mornings, but the teachings and the information that you receive and the people that you meet and the energy that you receive from each other. It makes you feel well. It helps you to deal with the stress hormones, the cortisol buildup that gets into sensitive areas, which we won't talk about. And all of that stuff. It should bring you back to what we call your true self. And I know a lot of psychological minded individuals don't like the phrase true self, but it's only a metaphor. Like God. God is a metaphor for that which we can't name. It's a mystery that we practice living into, and we associate high ideals. And every time we try to describe it, we limit it. So we practice living into it. That's why we come together like this on Sunday morning. So if you were looking for a reason or an excuse to drive on down to 2803 Highland, there is your excuse. It's wellness. That's why we do this. And that's kind of why we look at mystical teachings and ancient teachings and ancient literature to try to reclaim our spiritual heritage. Sacred text says to mark the perfect individual in the King James translation. But I think what they were trying to tell us is to look for heroes and heroines, because there will be things that you'll encounter in your day where you might look out in your generation and you can't find anyone to look up to. And that's okay. Our brother said that this revolution, this consciousness that's emerging on the planet, it may not come with a particular leader per se. It'll come through the collective awakening of the people, because our individual leaders held the light for us until, as a society, we were able to find that light within our own heart. Dr. King was a manifestation of your own inner consciousness. Harriet Tubman was a manifestation of your own inner consciousness. Sojourner Truth, a manifestation of your own inner consciousness, your potential to look past your own individual self and be altruistic. They were trying to wake us up as a people. So we turn back to these individuals who influenced us, these spiritual teachings and these mystics all throughout the ages, these Christ-like figures, to try to find the commonality within ourselves. So my first invitation under the subject of today's message is love thy neighbor. My first invitation is that you find this message, this information, this love, which is really what it's all about, especially this month. Find it within yourself. And then once you've found it within yourself, do the good that you can do right where you are. And then try to be altruistic and extend that self-love outward just a little bit further. It's not about competition or who can do the most good or who can be the most loving, because it has to be real. And it's only real when it's real to you. So you do the good, you do the loving thing that you can do right where you are, and you extend it outward. Because the end part of the joke, love thy neighbor as thyself, we say, yeah, you're closest to me, you're my neighbor. But the truth is, the closest being to one's self is oneself. So you always start here. You take care of this one. You present information and not just facts. You give yourself nourishment for your soul, and not just headlines and punchlines. Because God knows we've got enough headlines and punchlines. On behalf of this particular office, we do participate in that too. 20 minutes is never enough time to have a decent conversation about the truth of life. So ministers get caught up in punchlines and headlines. Some of the things we say, some of the things we mean to say, some of the things that we mean to say people hear, and other times we just say the wrong thing. Right? But when you, as an awakened individual, make a personal commitment to love yourself enough to inform yourself beyond headlines and beyond punchlines, it's what Jesus said in that self-same hour, you wouldn't need a teacher, because when the Spirit of truth comes, it teaches you, it guides you. It's like, preacher, you got that wrong, but I'll fix it for you. And you go to the information yourself. News, such and such, that's an alternative fact. That's not the complete truth. Let me go and find the actual information. Let me move beyond this 2-second clip with this 30-character posting, and let me go pick up a book and see what actually takes place and transpires. In the words of the Apostle Paul to Timothy, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the words of truth. That's how we love ourselves. We love ourselves enough to give ourselves the truth rather than wrap our belief system around a lie. That right there is real love, because it's easy to believe. It's hard to inform oneself to the point to where you grow into truth. That's the struggle that we have as spiritual people. You know, belief, truth, belief, mind and heart. That's where the work is. But one of the things that I can say, just from Jesse's point of view, is that it is a process, which is what I want to walk you into slowly today. This love that we talk about on Sunday mornings and in spiritual teachings, it's stages of evolution that you grow into. And when you've reached it, my ask is that you allow your heart to be tender so that you can see the world as it attempts to reach up itself and reach inward itself. Because everyone may not be where you are. And that's not an opportunity to excuse, nor is it an opportunity to set yourself up to be repeatedly traumatized. In the words of the Apostle Paul, may the Lord watch between me and me while we're absent one from another. I'm not going to hold nothing against you, but I'm not going to let you talk to me any kind of way either. And I'm also not going to let you come on my Facebook post when I wasn't even talking to you in the first place. That's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother sermon. So you give the world space, because maybe, just maybe, our job is to plant. Someone else waters, and life gives the increase. There are some truths, especially when we're talking about love, where people can't receive it from you. Why is that, preacher? I'm glad you asked. I have no idea. Seemed like they were better when they got away from me. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe. Or maybe they just needed to hear it from another face, another voice. Or maybe they just needed to hear it again and again and again and again and again. In our efforts to save the world, my request is you don't lose your soul, which is the hard thing to do. Spirituality, we have to save the world. Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? How do you do that if the world does not want to listen? How do you do that? I learned something about ministry. You all let me practice it here, so I think I figured it out. Your job is to present the information. The learning happens on an individual level when we all contribute to the information pot. I can't make you learn. You can't make your neighbor learn. You can't make the Facebook world learn. It's a choice. So you present information. One plants, one waters, life gives the increase. And it happens over time. So love thy neighbor, especially in a time where the world is polarized, where altruism seems to be at an all-time low. Not because it's a statistical fact, but because we can't quite see it yet. Maybe some of that's by design. Who knows? But love thy neighbor as thyself is an affirmation that we are ever progressively moving into. In other words, it happens in stages. As individuals go through various things in life, as they find out things for themselves, as the veil lifts from their eyes, it happens over time. And on occasion, we sometimes bear the burden for the veiled individuals. And it sounds like I'm throwing shots at people, but just walk with me for a little bit. That too is a part of the human experience. We are interconnected, which is why there's always such a push for others to wake up and wake up fast, because your sleepiness may affect my comfort and I'm awake. Teacher is not fair. God help, get them. But the downside of the human experience is that, and the upside is, once you do wake up, you realize that the responsibility isn't to wake others up, but sometimes, I feel my help now, sometimes the responsibility is to be with others as they are awakening. That's You mean to tell me I have to be with them and there's nothing I can do to speed up the process? Wake up! No. And you learn that when you're with individuals who have terminal illness. Sometimes your voice startles them, messes up the vitals. They don't need to hear, just sit. No loud talking, no loud noise, just calm, relaxing music. Just be with them. It's how we care for one another. Sometimes words are enough and we need words. Sometimes words are too much, especially during a time when the world is so polarized. And wherever you find yourself in this message, hear it. Wherever you don't, of course, toss it, like how we do. Because there is a time to speak and a time to be silent and a time to be, and you will know what that is when it's your time. If you're having a conversation and you are diametrically opposed, how do you love your neighbor as yourself? When words won't work, because sometimes words work and sometimes words cause people to settle in even more. What do you do then, preacher? I don't know. But I'm willing to live in the question with you and figure it out. And the answer happens over time. And a lot of times the loving thing to do is to pray, invoke, affirm the patience to be able to do so. And when you run out, tag your it. It's your turn. That's why sacred text says you are a city set on a hill that cannot be hid. A city has residents. You don't have to do it all by yourself. And if you've taken on the mantle of doing it all by yourself, go find your people, because there's strength in numbers. And maybe that's what we need more. More unity so that the work possibly could be done a lot faster. That's just my guess. So we love each other as best we can. And when love doesn't work, we find a way to leave each other alone. Knowing that the work will still get done, even if it's not done through me. But I think on an individual level, and I'm right there with you, sometimes I want it done through me. I put in all this work, ain't nobody else is going to come and blink and then it's done. No. No. Well, I appreciate the microphone. The microphone helped me out a whole lot. The devil is a liar. As we say this out. Right? So this loving thy neighbor as thyself is an affirmation that we live into. And it is so, so much bigger than us. For God is love. Both in the world, extending outside of the world per se, in us, with us, as us. However you define this mystery that we live into. So today, if I seem like I have more questions than answers, it's because I am living in the question right with you. And in order to gain the experience that we are all looking for, which is peace, healthiness, harmony, all of those things, experience can't come without experiment. So we have to try. We live into it as best we can. Again, especially during a time where the world is so polarized, where sometimes households are diametrically opposed. Neighborhoods, we want to talk about civil war, lines drawn down neighborhoods where you thought your neighbor was your friend until they lift up their garage and you see a specific flag symbol. No. That kind of polarization, right? How do you continue to love that neighbor? I'll tell you. You find common ground, which is a big ask. How do you find common ground with those you diametrically disagree with? And it's a question that we live into. But then you have to turn back to your heroes and heroines and ask yourself, am I just my anger? But they are denying me my right to exist. Let me ask you something. That may be true, but their individual denial of your right to exist, is it going to stop you from existing? I've learned, I used to talk to my grandmother a lot. She said, don't present a problem to someone who doesn't have the ability to provide you with an answer. There are some things and some occasions where once your eyes are open and you see the world as it is, you make up your mind to do the best you can to fight for truth and justice. And as a measure of self-care, you learn to take a break. And if you see something that seems to be opposing you in the external world, and you have done the best that you could do, remember, the race was not given to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but to those that endure until the end. The mystic Paul also said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and he also said the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, through intelligence, through spiritual practice, through love, through the pulling down of strongholds. At some point, physical or physicality or trying doesn't really work. So once you've done the work, you've set the tone, you've made your statement, you've stood your ground, and you see where the opposition is. My concern as people is the collateral damage once you've gotten on the other side of all of this. The relationships, the friendships, the people, even our children. What are we modeling to our children who will have their opposition in their day? How do we teach them how to stand your ground? Push for freedom, educate yourself, and then not allow your heart to turn cold during the process. That's the hard part of spiritual practice, where it cuts, like sacred text says, to the joints and the marrow of the bone, and it asks us deep existential questions about who we are and who we want to be as a society. Now, I'm not beating you up. I'm right here with you. These are all questions that I have. The collateral damage and the friendships, the people you've known for 30 and 40 years. Not saying their opposition to issues are not important. They are. Is there common ground? Food, clothing, and shelter. How's the children? And this might sound like a bipartisan sermon, but it's not. It's a sermon that calls us to love. And the responsibility piece isn't coming from the pulpit. The responsibility piece comes from our heart, and we get to decide how that love takes shape, what it looks like, how far it's willing to go, that sort of thing. And that's the hard part about our practice. Or then we can decide to simply take the bypass and pretend none of this exists. But that's the difference between make-believe spirituality and spiritual practice that cuts to the heart of who you are. Where it's more than a title. It's more than words that we know. It's more than prayer poses. It's more than body postures. It's more than where you go, who you affiliate with, right? It asks us to look around, because the name of this church is Unity, which isn't mainline ecumenical, where it's just Protestant. We're talking about the unification of all faiths that have diametrical opposition, like concerning core issues and core values, but yet we still find commonality. That takes work, and only love can do that. So my question to all of us is that for our spiritual homework, while we're working on ourselves and thinking about our families, look deep within your soul and ask yourself, what is love requiring of me today? Sometimes love doesn't require anything, just exists. Other times love requires you to do the hard thing, which is the thing you don't want to do, which is to be nice. But they did. I know. I see it too. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to go over there and I'm telling them, you need to take that down. This is our neighborhood. No, you don't. It ain't going to work. You can try. It's not going to do it. Love is a long game. So It's a long process. And it's such a long process that it might exist or the work may continue beyond our lifetime. And so our job is just to do our part. That's the real truth. Things do get better. Moses, look at his promised land. You see it, you won't walk in it. Joshua's going to take the lead now. Moses is gone. But Moses set the ground, set the pace, set the tone. He did his part. That might be what we're called to do. To live into love and see how it takes shape. And perhaps if we're curious enough, if we try hard enough, I'm guessing that it will make the world a better place because we're all willing to try. And when things get tense, we bring in mediation efforts and conflict resolution. What do you do as a leader when you're sitting between two dictators? How do you find, or how do you help them to find common ground? Or to bring it home, what do you do when you have two neighbors that are diametrically opposed? How do you find common ground? How's the family? How's the children? You okay? You paying your bills all right? You working? Taking care of yourself? Okay, good. I'll see you next time. All right. You do the good that you can because we are not a people known for our anger, but we are known by our love. And love sounds passive, but to reiterate bell hooks, it is a revolutionary act. To quote Blasi Fillmore, who was the great-granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle, she said that unity is a family of love drawn together based on a specific idea. And that idea is unity. We're all here on the same rock, the third one from the sun. How do we get along without tearing each other apart? That's the work. In the words of James Baldwin, African American History Month, he says, in all of my living and in all of my life, whether you call it romantic love, friendship love, family love, love is the practice of mirroring each other's, not pain, not anger, not frustration, but mirroring each other's light. How do we do that as a people? We find it within ourselves first and do the best we can. Real quick, ground this in some scripture text. I got 5 minutes, I know you gotta go. The book of Mark, written in the 1st century. The 12th chapter, 30th verse. Jesus is asked a question. He says, the greatest of these commandments, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, you know that. Then love thy neighbor as thyself. Mark 12 and 30. This is a book, watch this, where everything happens in stages. They talk about an individual born blind. Jesus spits, touches his eye, which is kind of gross. We'll talk about that later. He says, I see men and women as trees walking. Then Jesus stares at him and then he sees clearly. The book itself, that scripture itself, is a lesson on stages. That this work that we do happens in stages. The individual born blind, sight was restored to him, not immediately, in stages. So this love that we talk about, love thy neighbor as thyself, it happens in stages. Sometimes it happens as we change. Sometimes it happens as people change. Sometimes it happens as we change and people stay the same, but either way it still happens. My ask is that you find it within yourself and do the best you can, even if it's a little. 1 ounce of kindness to the guy at the grocery store. In 25 years, he'll move from bagging groceries to being on your school board. Another 5 years, he'll become your mayor. You just never, true story, you just never know. Because our vision is limited as humans. But if we see ourselves and see the world through the eyes of love and the eyes of God, anything is possible. Take a deep breath. Let this information rest, rule, and abide within your heart and mind. Know that you don't have to do this work alone. And know I'm not asking you to go far and wide and beyond your capabilities. I'm asking you to dig deeper, think a little harder, take a breath before you speak, and let love guide you.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. of you that watch online, remember to log on to unitybingham.org and click on giving. You are a vital part of our ministry. And those that give in-house, our ushers are making their way forward as Adonna gives us a special selection. Take it away. I see you, brother. All right. Jack. He gonna beat me up after service. Point your hands in the direction of Brother George. Say this with me. We bless this offering, affirming it will be used for the building of this ministry. Bless the givers. We declare their gifts will return back to them. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And so it is. Put your hands together one more time.
We all stand for let there be peace on earth. prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Wherever we are, God is.
Wherever I am, God is, and all is well.
Thank you, Mother.
All right.